So Valve has decided to shelve their laurel beds, have they? That's right, Valve are making a new game, and from the thumbnail you would know that to be Deadlock. You may have heard of Deadlock, you might have played Deadlock. It's currently in closed beta, but gaining access is as easy as putting your friends down for a job referral. Simple, effective, and fun. Now, I've put in a good few hours already, and I want to talk about it, especially now the beta-wide NDA's been lifted. Firstly, what even is Deadlock? Deadlock is a MOBA first, hero shooter second. Instinctively, that should have you squinting your eyes and curling your lips in disgust. That is normal, but in true Valve fashion, miraculously, they've made it work, despite releasing a game that steps on two of their biggest franchises' toes. Now, I've put more hours than I want to admit into Valve's other MOBA title, Dota 2, so I feel I have an interesting perspective on Valve's new take on the MOBA genre. So, this video will focus more heavily on the MOBA aspect of the game. However, let's talk about the hero shooter aspect first, because we'll tackle the big fish once we're through the small fries, and it is an important part of the game. Now, I don't know if you remember, but Valve made a hero shooter in the past. They own a small indie title known as Team Fortress 2. You might have heard of it. While TF2 isn't quite a hero shooter, it certainly set the stage for the gargantuan industry that follows in its footsteps. And it's clear, Valve has learned a lot from TF2 in regards to the action in Deadlock. First and foremost, movement is a huge part of the way your character plays and gets around. And just as TF2 prioritizes interesting movement and mechanics, so too does Deadlock, with its stamina system allowing you to double jump, dash, slide, juke, and jive. They clearly knew to focus on the movement. That's all well and good, but this isn't a hero walking simulator, it's a hero shooter. How is that? Yeah, it's pretty good as well. Every hero has a unique weapon that they will use when fighting, from shotguns on this guy, shurikens on this guy, to full on heavy TF2. Every character has specific mechanics to remember and develop skills with to shoot good. Another lesson I feel Valve has taken from TF2, variety being the spice of life. Now, if you're a TF2 or Overwatch enjoyer and you're quivering in your seat wanting to play, I feel I need to warn you of what comes next. Brace yourself. Okay, hear it. Yeah, remember what I said earlier, this game is primarily a MOBA. That means big health, big brain, big moves. This game feels like people should die fast, but they've taken the health balancing from Dota and applied it to this roster of New York Satanists. This means during the laning stage, yeah, there's a laning stage, it's a MOBA, taking down the enemies in lane can be quite a match of throwing pebbles until one of you hits the soft spot on the enemy's skull. At first, this confused my brain greatly, but after a few matches, the Dota part of my brain kicked in, I got miserable again, and I started treating the enemies as if it was a showdown in mid lane. I think this will be one of the hurdles to get into Deadlock. An easy hurdle to overcome, surely, but a bump in the road is no less a bump, regardless the number of bumps you've driven over. Now, let's get into the meat and potatoes. Let's discuss the mechanics of Deadlock. To begin a match, you have to select a minimum of 3 playable heroes, and you can decide how strongly you want to play each. This thing cues you into a match and puts you as one of your hero choices. This is already a very interesting choice from Valve. I'm not entirely sure if this is a good choice. It favours the individual player but not the match as a whole. This game is still in its beta, so only time will tell if it remains this way, but Dota 2 has hero bans for a reason. Perhaps Valve feel they can balance the heroes to such a degree where hero bans aren't necessary. The second point to bring up is a lack of counter picks. An interesting choice again. A large part of Dota is picking heroes to both synergize and shut down the enemy. Picking your heroes before a match starts entirely removes this. Again, this favours the player. I almost always get the heroes I want to play and it feels good, but even in my limited time playing, I'm already sick of seeing the same 3 heroes every game. We got Sniper, we got Pudge, and we got Sandman, I don't know. But, you know, whatever. That's all well and good. I've picked my hero, what's next? Well, you get to laning. The game randomly places you in one of 4 lanes, yep, 4 instead of 3, and you get to the laning stage. This part of the game is the most similar to Dota, where you have to, last hit the lane creeps and tiptoe around the enemies. Only, last hit in a creep during the laning stage only gives you half the money, with the other half floating away in a little delicious looking orb. This allows the enemy to shoot the orb before you do and steal half of your so rightfully deserved money. I really love this. Denying in Dota is such a fundamental part of the gameplay, and Valve have clearly learnt from that. It becomes a game of reflex and distraction to ensure you get maximum farm out of the lane. And the sounds of last hitting and denying, oh man, I've not even played that much of the game, but they're already ingrained into my brain. Another aspect to the laning stage is sustainability. Your creep wave spawns with a healer creep that both heals you and your allied creeps. This effectively rewards you staying in the lane and committing to get your money. On top of that, unlike current Dota at least, there are shops in every lane, so you don't have to return to base to get your items. This keeps the pace of the lane up and leads you to always have an enemy to contest you. The laning stage here just feels much more fast paced than Dota, which in a way reflects the current state of laning in Dota, which at present patch rewards fast snowbally play and punishes slow farming. An insight into Valve's developmental philosophy perhaps. But yeah, whatever. You've taken the enemy's tower, sorry, I mean Guardian, and your lane's gone about as well as it could have. What are your next steps? Well, in Dota, it depends on your role, carries farm, support set things up, perfect. But Deadlock's weird. Let's talk about the economy and character roles. Firstly, there's maybe one hero in the game which you think would be a hard support. That would be Ivy with her healing tether, just like Io in Dota. But I've been totally stomped by Ivies in the past. Stomped as if she was a hard carry. Why is that? Well, there's no XP system in Deadlock. Money is everything. Money levels you up, money buys items, so every hero wants to farm. But spending your money introduces another interesting design choice from Valve: item slots. Just like every other MOBA, you have a limited number of slots to hold items. However, in Deadlock, your items are split into categories: shoot modifiers, character modifiers, and ability modifiers. Whereas in Dota, you would have to go all in on one aspect, Deadlock allows you to beef up every aspect of your character. And the only leeway you get is the flex slots that you unlock by performing specific tasks in the game, like taking the first tier 2 towers or walkers or whatever they're called. These flex slots let you put any item you want from any category in them, further pushing the customizability of your hero. This is a very exciting difference in my opinion. This effectively allows every hero to carry and support, either at the same time or during certain phases of the game. This also means you don't have your hard carry buying only damage items. They have room for defensive items too. Hats off to you, Valve, for breaking down the walls of role segregation in the MOBA genre. Now, I've discussed item slots and categories, but let's dive deeper into the items you can buy. This is where it gets more interesting. Unlike Dota, Deadlock's items are very incremental, giving smaller buffs but over a much wider range. Like for instance, in the ability category, you can buy items which boost the damage, duration, range, cooldown, and even an item that adds more charges to certain abilities. This game really allows you to customize your character's abilities dependent on the game or how you wish to play. Of course, there will be a hard meta that forms, but this still allows you to push for how you want to play. Have a hero that has a big AoE ult? Let's make it bigger! But despite the items being very incremental, there's still the feeling of item timings. For example, the most traditionally hard to carry hero in Deadlock is Haze. All of her damage comes from her, bog standard shooting, with her ult basically being Reaper's ult from Overwatch. This pushes her to build for weapon damage items. Some of these items really push the power ceiling of a hero when purchased, such as Glass Cannon just pushing your damage through the ceiling, or Siphon Bullets making you a tanky mess to play against. This is a fairly important aspect I feel, as item timings and power spikes are a huge tactical part of Dota. However, now in Deadlock, only a select few items build into each other, so item builds rely a lot on selling some of your crappier items to upgrade them for better things. It's an interesting way to take it, I think. But I think Deadlock being in its beta phase will push for many changes in the item department. Valve at least seem to be trying something different, which I really appreciate. The rest of the gameplay loop's fairly MOBA-esque. Farm creep camps for more money, take team fights to get objectives. But even in each aspect of the game, there's subtle nuances and differences that you only notice far after you've decided to play. This is good in my opinion. Complexity is good for a game like this. Smaller mechanics that you can exploit to push the effectiveness of your character is a great way to increase the skill ceiling of the game. But there's plenty more to discuss regarding Deadlock, but this is supposed to be a short look at Deadlock, so all I can say is, Deadlock is really fun to play. If you have a friend playing it right now, ask them to invite you, please! You'll enjoy it, surely. Deadlock is a nice introduction to the MOBA genre, and if you're enjoying Deadlock, why not try Valve's other title, Dota? The Dota PsyOp works every time. And that's all I have to say. Thank you for watching. This was a weird one, I know, but I just had to talk about Deadlock because it's really cool and I'm really enjoying it. So, thank you very much. See you later, I guess.
I'm fucking frying.